Hello and welcome to Video Game Hangover. I'm Randy Dickinson and I'm in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Hey, I am DJ Ross. I'm in Mountain View, California.
Each week on Video Game Hangover, that's not true anymore. We got called out on that. We can't say each week on Video Game Hangover.
Oh, you can say. I think we can say each week
Because
we're like every week there's a show. This is what we do, right? Wow. Oh.
On weeks where there's a podcast, we talk about the games that have been keeping us up at night. This week we're playing another code Recollection, or Recollection is even a better way to say it, probably. And checking in on Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth.
Another code Recollection sounds like a Square Enix game. There's a Square Enix ass video game title.
Yeah.
But that's not a Square Enix game, so you're probably right. It probably is Recollection.
Recollection. Yeah, I feel like I want to do over on that intro. Can we do that over?
Are we just saying that, or are we actually going to do it over?
No, we're good. We can just carry on. Yeah.
Okay.
But we did get called out on Discord for saying each week, and that's not entirely accurate anymore.
We just don't. Well, we're here every week. We just don't broadcast those.
We just don't record it anymore. DJ and I need some privacy.
Yeah.
Please respect our privacy.
Talking about those secret games we're playing.
Right.
Do you play any secret games?
I play any secret games
that you just don't want to, I don't know what that means. Games you don't want to admit that you're playing. How many of those are there?
What games do I play that we don't talk about on the show? There are not a lot. Sometimes they sneak in. Yeah, every now and then. But no, I still play the Wordle every day.
Yeah,
that's a secret game.
I haven't touched the Wordle in a while.
I play Connections as well, since I get.
I love Connections. Yes,
I get the most out of my New York. Yeah.
I didn't realize. Yeah.
I don't share my scores anymore, but Sarah and I challenge each other the Wordle every day, and then I do the Connections by myself.
Oh, okay.
She doesn't like it.
She doesn't like Connections? No. Terrible. Get her out of the house.
I had a brief obsession with Gubbins over Christmas break.
Gubbins, yes.
Are you familiar with Gubbins?
No, please. What is Gubbins?
It's a spelling game. It's a mobile game. It's on iOS and Android. And
spelling game?
Yeah, you get, rather than, it's like you're playing Scrabble against yourself, essentially. And instead of having letter tiles, you have like conjunctions. You'll have an ST and an AC, and like occasionally you'll get some single letters, and you have to sort of mix them up to build words on the field. And as you play, other like junk starts to fill in. They're called gubbins. They're little things that like will block your path or stop you from merging or make you have to use a double letter and things like that. So all these little modifiers start to play on the field as you get further and further into the game. It's super fun. It's like a really kind of one of the few unique spins on a spelling game that I've seen in the last couple of years.
And I can't deal with it.
Not feeling it.
I'm not into like the like word rearranging games for some reason.
Oh, weird.
I don't know what it is. I was playing that. What is it? There was like that secret puzzle game site you invited me to. Man, speaking of secret games, what was that thing? I was doing that for a while. Actually, I'll admit I'm still doing it. Maybe that's my secret game. Okay, so first of all, wait, what is this thing called? I have it on my phone.
Oh, it's Zach Gage's daily game site.
Puzzmo.
Puzzmo, there you go.
See, I thought Puzzmo was like another game that already existed. But anyway, so it's like this whole secret society of word games.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I realized, like, I just don't like this type of word game where everything is kind of like just a few degrees removed from Spell Tower.
Yes. Oh, yeah, totally.
So now I just, I go in and I do the crossword, which I think is kind of interesting. And then I do flip art, which I think is the stupidest puzzle game that's ever been invented. Like, why is this even here among all these other games? And then I just go back to, and I do Connections, and that's like my evening routine.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how I decided, like, I don't like these games where you just have to build words out of letters. I don't know why I don't like that, but I just don't.
But you still do it every day.
I do the crossword. I only do the crossword.
Okay, gotcha. The Puzzmo crossword, I think, is really well done, and I think they do a really nice job of how they handle hints and stuff like that. I think the interface is really good, too. So,
it's like weird. The clues are weirdly sort of contemporary, which I like.
Yes.
It's kind of fun.
I agree. And Zach Gage, who is sort of I guess him and his partner are the director of Puzzmo, and he invented Spell Tower. So it seems to make sense that all of that stuff would kind of tie back to Spell Tower in some way.
Mm-hmm. Can't stand Spell Tower.
No, I still like Spell Tower.
It's like I can't deal with games where junk piles up, or you sort of like paint yourself into a corner. I hate that.
Oh yeah, you have to be thoughtful about how you use your tiles.
Yeah, no, too much OCD to deal with games like that. Can't do it.
Well, then Gubbins is not for you.
Gubbins, no. As you were describing it, I'm just like, I don't want to have anything to do with this.
So yeah, more often than not, like if I'm going to play a console game, I'm probably going to talk about it on the show. But like every now and then stuff like appears on my phone, and
with mobile games.
Yeah, and I will have a brief flirtation with it, and then I'll move on to something else. And yeah, those are probably my two most recent ones. I definitely went through the Puzzmo thing for quite a while, and then it was Gubbins, and now I'm not really playing any phone games except for the New York Times stuff. Yeah,
no, I was actually thinking recently, like it's been a while since I had a good phone game that I've been going back to. I don't know what that is right now.
Now, this is the time in the video game hangover cycle where we talk about desert golf for 45 minutes.
I was just thinking, I was like, I don't have any phone games. When's the next desert golfing
it's
coming up?
time for Desert Golf 3. Yeah, exactly.
Where is it? I was like, I really like the golf on Mars until you get to the point where just every stage is impossible.
Yeah.
So it's like, if they had only like patched that. And then, so I went in and looked at the update notes, and they haven't updated it in like 3 years. So I guess they never addressed it. But yeah, when's the next one of those coming out? I actually was playing some desert golfing this weekend, just wondering if there's another one in store. But I also feel like desert golfing is perfect as is, and why would they make another one? So
it seemed a little. And I think you and I were a little surprised that they even made a sequel to it. Because it seems like the most unnecessary sequel to a game that is infinitely playable and replayable, essentially. So, I think I bounced off of Golf on Mars probably around the same time that you did, where it's sort of like, oh, none of this is fun anymore.
I felt like what they added in the sequel was just enough to justify it existing. But also the fact that you would just end up on stages where like they were literally impossible, and you just have to like make wasted shots over and over until it let you skip the stage. It just got frustrating.
I mean, the fact that it even needed a stage skip made it inferior in every way to the original Desert Golf.
Yeah, one danger of having your game be completely procedurally generated. But yeah, like Desert Golfing still exists. You can play that. It's perfect.
Yep. Yeah. It more or less runs on everything. You have to sign in with your Facebook account or anything stupid like that. And it's, it's delightful.
Yeah. Going back to connections for a second, I just wanted to mention, it's like, fun game, pretty good game, a little dumb, but I figured out that, if you're not familiar with this, the way it works is you get 16 words on a grid, and within that grid, there are 4 groups of 4 words that are connected to each other somehow. And sometimes it's like thematically, like by definition, or I guess semantically, that would be how that works. Sometimes they're just connected in the stupidest ways possible, where it's like, they all start with the letter R. They all rhyme, which is a little disappointing, but that's sort of the fun of it, is figuring out like what the connections are.
Right. But I'll add that the 4 groups, the 4 connected sets, sort of are supposed to sort of increase in difficulty as you get further along.
Yes, well, this is why I like this. Yeah. As soon as I figure this out, partially because I realized that they're also color coded by difficulty,
right?
And the colors that they use are basically, if you've played any game with loot rarity, it's the same colors, which I think is hysterical, because now there's a whole group of gamers, essentially, who now understand, oh yeah, purple.
They're trying to get purple drops, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the way I play this now is I try to solve the groups in reverse order. So I try and find the purple group, and then I try and find the blue group, and so on. but it makes it very complicated, which I appreciate. I get a little more mileage out of my connections time every day, because it's like the world. There's only one every day that you can play.
Right. Yeah, I think I like getting the purple early. If you get it somewhere in the first 3 groups, I mean, you really only have to solve 3 groups out of this, because the 4th one is just whatever's left.
Yeah, the fourth one. I try not to solve the 4th one until I've figured out what the deal is. But usually it's fairly easy at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's one of those games too where you start to sort of get the editor's like sensibility to a degree, and you start to sort of see patterns in some of the puzzles day to day if you do enough of them. And I start to look for like tricks they've used on previous games puzzles and stuff like that, where they had one that sort of like they had one set of words that was all had like another word inside of it. And now every day I look for that pattern to reappear in connections. So yeah, there's definitely stuff like that where you kind of start to get a sense of what the game editor's like vibe and approach to gaming is. And then it doesn't break it. I think it just gives you another kind of tool to look for, another like trick to keep an eye out for, to try to find the purple drop.
I feel like they're actually pretty good at not repeating clues, which is kind of fun, because it means that, you know, even if you're familiar with the themes that they've used in the past, it's sort of a trap if you look at the new words and you're like, oh, this is what they're doing.
This is the thing they did last week, right? Yeah.
Yeah, more often than not, it is sort of a red herring, which is fun.
The ones I love is when you think you figured out what one of the themes is, one of the connected groups is, but there's like 8 words that fit in it or 6 words that fit in it. You're like, okay, something is a trick here. Because some of these have to be part of another connection. Yeah.
Like as soon as you open a new puzzle, there's like 4 words that are obviously like, oh, this is the group, but then it's never the case. Right. It's always just there to throw you off, which I think is fun.
That's why I always hit shuffle first. I'm like, don't even put that in my head, because that's all I'll see from now on.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'm having fun with that. This is my secret game, maybe. Cool.
I think since
nothing very salacious about that, which is, I don't know. That's sort of what I was thinking when I first mentioned, like, oh, what are the secret games that you just don't talk about on the show?
Gotcha. Yeah. Like the check-in, the habit games, like,
Yeah.
The New York Times, I think, since they acquired Wordle and probably picked up a ton of subscribers, they certainly picked me up as a subscriber. Like, there's good content in the New York Times, but I found my news elsewhere until they also had the Wordle, which I was addicted to. So they got, I forget what I paid, like $8 a year or something like that to be able to do it every day. And
you don't have to pay to do the Wordle, though, do you?
You have to pay to like save your scores and stuff, though, right? Don't you?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, whatever.
Well, I don't know.
But they've tried really hard, I think, to sort of make the New York Times puzzle page like a thing. And none of the other games have hit. I've tried every other game in that app, and none of them really like feel great or
they seem kind of desperate.
Yeah, or inspire the same level of like devotion that Wordle did, until Connections rolled out late last year, and I was like, "This is the one, guys. You found it. Good job."
Yeah, Connections seems like another level above all the other stuff that they're kind of throwing at the wall.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it felt like forever after Wordle, before New York Times picked up Wordle, and Wordle was like this sort of like sly internet phenomenon, there were all of these things that were doing versions of Wordle.
Yes.
It's Wordle, but it's 6 letters now or whatever. And, some of the ones there was one that I liked that was like a movie still every day, and you identify the movie and you had 6 guesses. So there were a couple that like, oh, this is cool. And it speaks to like some weird little niche nerdiness in my brain. But yeah, I think the only thing that really has sort of habitually clicked and felt like a daily must-have has been Connection since then.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I was doing Quordle for a while, which is just 4 Wordles at once, because I felt like I wasn't getting the high from Wordle anymore. But that was good. I was also very amused to see it was like, I think Merriam-Webster bought them, which seems silly. I was like, all right, well, New York Times bought Wordle, we'll just buy Quordle. I was like, I don't know if that's how it works. But yeah, that was entertaining for a while. But anyway, Secret Games, Secret Games, that was good. As far as weekly stuff goes, though, we have plans for next week.
We do,
which is exciting.
Yeah.
We announced earlier this year that we're going to bi-weekly cadence, so every other week, which is a little disappointing because, I mean, the goal of it was to just give us a little more free time in our schedules because it was a very busy year last year.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I'm a little disappointed that we're not doing a show every week. But sort of in lieu of that, we are going to try a new thing next Monday, which is we're going to be streaming Splatoon 3. This new Splatoon 3 thing. Maybe I should let you talk about it because you know more about Splatoon 3 than I do.
This is the brand new Splatoon 3. It's called Side Order. It's the single player DLC pack. It kind of takes the Splatoon formula and turns it into a spire ascending boss attack. What do they call? Where you have like permadeath and you die and you have to start at the bottom of the spire again and continue fighting your way back to the top. And each level brings new challenges, and you can carry over just a little bit of stuff from playthrough to playthrough. Some of the previews have been very enthusiastic about it. It comes out this week. I've not gotten my hands on it yet, but I am itching to play it, and we're going to play it in our stream on Twitch next Monday night. So if you are anywhere near a computer or a mobile device on Monday, February 26th at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, you should tune in to twitch.tv/VGHangover and watch me, presumably, play Splatoon 3 Side Order.
Yes, it's a bit experimental. Yep. Since in this case it's a single player game. I will just be there sort of watching along because I'm very curious about how this actually works. But I think it'll be a fun time. Well, we'll see how it goes. If you're free, like Randy was saying, you just show up, hang out in the chat. We will just chat about whatever Randy is doing in Splatoon 3 and maybe other stuff that pops up. But I think it'll be fun.
Yeah, we want to kind of position it as like a social experience for our listeners. So like, while we're not necessarily recording a podcast that night, DJ and I will both be there. I'll be playing a game. He'll be hanging out in the chat. We'll be chatting with each other and with anybody who pops into the chat room. So come hang out with us and watch a little bit of Splatoon.
Yeah, should be good. I'm excited. Like I said, I don't even have Splatoon 3, so it'll be kind of a new thing for me just to see what's going on.
Cool. Yeah. I'm excited to play it. The Splatoon DLCs historically have been really, really good. They always do a couple of different sort of approaches. You get some kind of multiplayer in-game stuff, usually, costumes and levels and things like that. And there's always some single-player component to it. And they've always been really good and quite challenging. So I'm curious to sort of see the approach for this new one.
Yeah. Seems very surprising. And like, I don't know, seems something that I wouldn't really expect from Nintendo. But Nintendo, I think, is a lot more open to experimenting than we give them credit for. So I'm really curious about how this works out.
Yeah.
I mean, Splatoon itself is like, Nintendo's take on a multiplayer shooter. So
right, exactly.
It's it turned out to be quite unique and kind of distinct from everything else out there.
Splatoon is just like the whole like universe of Splatoon is so bizarre and weird. I feel like it's where all of maybe not all, but a lot of the really bizarro ideas from the House of Nintendo have seemed to end up over the last couple of years. So yeah. I think the rest of them probably ended up in Super Mario Wonder because that's a weird game too. But
yeah, pretty weird.
Yeah. But I love it. I love the vibe in Splatoon. The music's insane, the graphics and the world building. And the more you sort of pay attention, the more you realize that there's a lot going on kind of in this thing that looks just sort of bright and shiny otherwise. So it's, it's a little bit like Adventure Time in that way, which I always sort of admired for being this thing that was sort of like cute and funny and memeable, but like the more you sort of like watch episodes and watch the subtext, you realize this is actually a really dark thing. And there's definitely a stripe of that in Splatoon's universe too.
It's all that post-apocalyptic window dressing.
Right, exactly. So yeah, Monday night, 2/26, 10 p.m. Eastern Time. We will, maybe we won't record it, but Twitch will record it, so it will live there. If you wanted to watch it later, but we would love for you to join us live.
Yeah. So there you go. Every week on the show, something's happening.
So there we can say every week on Video Game Hangover again.
Yeah. Well, what else has been going on?
How excited are you about playing Xbox games on your Switch, DJ?
I'm excited. Question mark.
You can get that Master Chief Collection going on the Switch. I think that would be a hell of a thing, right?
Okay, wait a minute. I think we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. That would be pretty cool if I could play the Master Chief Collection on the Switch. Is that something that's happening?
That is not confirmed. No. So, what I'm alluding to, unless you've somehow not been on the internet for the last couple of weeks, it seems like Xbox is about to allow a bunch of its first-party games to be published on other platforms, and they have not announced Halo yet.
No, they didn't even announce what the games are, which is the most ridiculous thing about it.
No. Well, there is some like semi-confirmed speculation, right?
Right. I mean, I think the games are more or less known at this point.
Yeah.
But the way in which they did the announcement was pretty weird.
Well, I think it's what's his name? Phil Spencer over at Xbox has had a messy couple of weeks. I think he keeps saying things that are like not quite ready for prime time. And so he said sort of something about like maybe Xbox getting out of the console business and then like
I don't think he said that himself, did he? I mean, that was one of the hottest sort of predictions.
I thought that was the thing that he had to ultimately kind of backpedal on and say, we're going to make consoles forever. Don't worry about it.
Oh, did that come? I didn't realize that was something, or based on something he'd said. I thought that people were just running away with the news where they're just like, yeah, expect Xbox games and other things. Also, we are shutting down the console division immediately.
Yeah.
I'll go back and look at that one.
But yes, in the same sort of collection of interviews, and I guess he appeared on a Xbox podcast last week to sort of clarify is that, they are going to make a bunch of games, their first-party games that have only been available on PC and on Xbox, now available on things like the PlayStation and on the Switch. And that he expects that there would be much more of that in the future. And a lot of people who are heavily invested in Xbox lost their minds.
Yeah. That was just like, oh man, never change, gamers. Felt like we were back in the PS3 generation.
Yeah. I mean, like, imagine sort of such a big component of your personality being entrenched in Xbox exclusives. Like, it just really felt like people were like took it personally in some way. I don't quite understand.
Yeah, I don't know. People just need to get a life. Sorry, did I say that? People need to lighten up a little bit.
That's fair. But the first batch of titles are rumored to be Hi-Fi Rush, Pentiment, Sea of Thieves, and Grounded.
Yeah.
So,
some of those I didn't even realize were still Xbox exclusives.
Yeah.
I mean, I think because a lot of them were on Windows as well. Actually, all
no
of them
tentpoles, though. We're not getting any Halo. We're not getting any Gears of War. That's it, right? I mean, those are pretty much what else does Xbox have? Starfield's an Xbox exclusive at this point, and there was a little hubbub about Starfield potentially coming to PS5, but that has not been confirmed.
Yeah, I kind of expected that would be on there. I mean, I sort of expected to be on everything eventually, especially after this announcement, but I don't know. That didn't seem to be as quite the hit that they were hoping it would be.
Yes, yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I think fine. I mean, I for one welcome our single platform gamer future. Right? That is probably the ideal way to do it. It does feel like Nintendo is forever going to do their own thing. But yeah, I mean, basically the PS5 and the Xbox One S and X are more or less just PCs at this point, and they should run PC games.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this generation there has been like the exclusive situation has not been quite as exciting as it has been in previous generations. Like Sony just announced that they made some weird announcement that like PS5 is entering either the next phase or the final phase of its lifespan. Something that sounded like probably more terminal than it should have.
Well, and they also said in the same breath that there are no mega first party exclusives coming from PlayStation Studios in the next year. Like 1 year of no Last of Us games or whatever.
Yeah, which is like, wait a minute, I feel like I just got this thing. Now there's nothing coming out for it, which honestly I kind of expected. But it just feels weird. Like, what a kind of non-starter generation of consoles. Yeah.
Here's the quote from Phil Spencer that I think everybody kind of got worried about is I do have a fundamental belief that over the next 5 or 10 years, games that are exclusive to one piece of hardware are going to be a smaller and smaller part of the game industry.
That seems like that's already the situation.
That's more or less what Sony said last week too, just in a slightly different way. So my question for you, DJ, in a sort of a future where the Xbox and the PlayStation both run the same collection of games and exclusives are not really a thing anymore, how do you decide which device to buy?
I don't know. Like, does it even matter, or will it? I've always been like sort of team PlayStation. Although just like this announcement is weird timing because I just bought an Xbox Series S, last month. But I didn't really buy it to play Xbox games. I bought it to hopefully do emulation on, and also because the Xbox store is closing, and there are a bunch of games that only exist now on the like sort of the 360 PS3 generation games that you can play or you can still get from the Xbox store, but you can't play, like if you have the PlayStation versions, they're not backwards compatible with or on the PS4 or PS5. So there are like a bunch of games from that generation that in some cases I own already for PS3, but they're not very easily playable. So I thought I would just scoop them up on the Xbox because they're doing a much better job with the backwards compatibility.
Yes.
So I feel like if you had asked me even just a few years ago, I would have said, oh, PlayStation, definitely, because that's where all my stuff is. But it seems like the real answer, there's more stuff, there's more of a back catalog on Xbox, even if their current offerings maybe are not as exciting. So I don't know what to do.
Yeah, because a lot of that old PlayStation stuff is also still on Xbox, right? And they're doing a better job, I think, of keeping it alive.
Yeah. I mean, at least until the store shuts down, like that's still disappointing. And that is one area where the PlayStation seems to be doing better. But, I haven't been super thrilled with the PS5 either. Like, I was very late to getting one. I didn't get one anywhere near launch. And still at this point, I don't have a lot of just PS5 games in general, let alone exclusives. I think I've got, like, Final Fantasy 16, which I assume is coming to... that'll be on Xbox eventually, and it's coming to Windows. They're still working on that version. But... I can't tell you what other PS5 games that I have. Yeah.
Well, I got my sort of like my PlayStation Wrapped by like a recap of how many hours and how many games I played in 2023, and I played 4 games on my PS5 last year. So yeah, I think I'm with you in like not quite understanding what this giant $500 paperweight does.
Yeah. I mean, when I got it, it was just sort of accepting that, at some point I'll need to upgrade my console because the new games won't come out for the old ones.
Right.
But that has also just been slower to happen than previous generations. Like I'm playing Like a Dragon on it, so I guess that's good.
Yeah. It's funny because I've put more hours already this year in February on my PS5 than I probably did all of last year. So
yeah.
It's gotta be the right game. I guess that's my takeaway is if, wherever the right game is.
I tend to jump around a lot these days. Like if it's on the Switch, or I'm getting a lot of use out of my Odin, a little Android handheld lately, which is fun. So, I don't know. It'd be great to just have one box that did everything, of course.
I agree. So yeah, no outrage from me. I just thought it was kind of an interesting headline last year on a year that has been relatively quiet on headlines.
Yeah, I mean, definitely no outrage. I'm all for games being less exclusive. But yeah, it just sort of raises the question, like, why even have 2 of these things? Like, what's the point?
Yeah. Well, cool. I mean, what else can we say until they start announcing games, obviously? I think the one thing that is kind of in my brain is like, geez, I would love to have that Rare Replay collection on the Switch. Because I don't think I ever really did that justice, and there's so much stuff to like mine there. Obviously Perfect Dark and Banjo-Kazooie, but like a billion other fun, weird little rare games from over the years too that probably all started their life on a Nintendo console. And then somehow only became Xbox games by nature of Microsoft purchasing Rare. So yeah, it would be cool for all of those things to sort of come back to the Switch and then just have a copy of that to take on the road with me.
Yeah. Or, Microsoft could have their own handheld, which I think is another prediction people had. It's like, how would that make any sense? That would be a tough proposition.
The solution is not less devices, but more devices.
Right.
Yes. It seems unlikely that there is a future Xbox handheld device at some point. I think they're just trying to own maybe game streaming and things like that, so that the box essentially is a hub and it just broadcasts to whatever device you have.
Yeah, which I think eventually a lot of gaming will work that way, but we're not quite there yet.
As long as you've got good Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Well, cool. I didn't think you'd be angry, but I wanted to throw it out there.
Should I have been angrier? I don't know.
No, I don't know. I did not think that you would have a horse in that race. Is that what the expression is?
But you're right. I was not especially this generation where I didn't even have an Xbox for most of it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's funny even having this thing now because it doesn't even occur to me there are probably new Microsoft games I could be playing. But it's just sort of sitting there, just waiting for me to load up Lost Planet or Perfect Dark, like you were saying. Whenever the mood hits, I'll go into the back catalog and play one of those. Yeah,
yeah. You have a Series S, right? The little white one.
Yeah, little baby one.
Yeah, I love that machine. I think it's been probably one of my best gaming purchases over the last couple of years. That and a subscription to Game Pass, I think, are the smartest way to spend $300 if you have it. Because the Game Pass is this kind of portal to just a ton of kind of cool curated games every month. Some surprising things that land on there kind of day and date. You can play every Yakuza game except for the new one on there right now if you wanted to. You can play all the Persona games. There's a bajillion hours of Persona waiting for you on Game Pass right now, and all for $15 a month.
I haven't really gotten into the Game Pass thing yet just because I don't need just to open the floodgates of more games to play. Sure. I think my schedule is pretty full. I appreciate that it's a very wide catalog on there.
Yeah.
But if I didn't have this enormous backlog I was sitting on, though, it'd certainly be a very good sort of value proposition.
Right. I think that my sort of example in this is always my friend Grant, who is not a gamer on the order like you and I are gamers. We don't 3 or 4 different games every month. This constant churn of what's the next thing? What's the next thing? And Grant plays maybe 2 games a year.
Mm-hmm. Good for him.
And yeah, absolutely. What a wonderful life of simplicity. Is a responsible adult, has kids and a job and all the other things that the rest of us, various forms of which the rest of us sort of wrestle with too. But really goes hard on those couple of games and has a good time with them. And I think that for me, it feels like that's what I want to hear. Right. The person that Game Pass is for, where you're just sort of not this ravenous consumer of games, where it's just sort of oh, here's a cool thing maybe I can play for a little bit, or here's an interesting thing to check out, and maybe it'll click, and maybe it'll be my game for this month. So yeah, I think it depends on how you consume games, obviously, but I think if you're on the casual end, or just having a lot of options, the Game Pass is a good way to do it.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff on there.
Yeah, definitely. So what else you been playing? We should talk about another code.
We should, yeah. I just want to give them props for the Recollection subtitle that is so clever. because it's a game about the memory, or the memory plays a large part in sort of the storyline.
Yeah.
And everything, it's a re-release, remastering of several other games that came out. And of course, everything has got their own sort of the Master Chief Collection or the, whatever collection. But calling this Recollection is so clever. So just good job to whoever at Nintendo came up with that. Maybe that was just obvious when they're trying to name this thing, but I don't know. I'm so pleased.
Well, I mean, kudos to whoever greenlit this thing too, because it does not sort of seem like this was the thing that had to be remastered or re-released. Like,
no,
yeah. So the Sing made these, and Sing also made Hotel Dusk, which I think I could safely say is a game that you and I both really like and really admire. It is a bummer that that game, as well as Trace Memory, which is the game. Okay, how did it work? Trace Memory was what another code was called in the US, right?
Right.
Those games were kind of lost and locked to the DS when they shut down the DS shop there. So it's cool that the Trace Memory series, the sequel of which is also part of this collection and came out on the Wii, which is also lost and locked to a console that is probably not plugged in a lot of living rooms right now. So it's cool that this exists at all, because it gives you kind of access to games that would not otherwise be accessible, and are pretty good and should be played.
Yeah. Are they pretty good? Do people like these? I mean, my sort of impression was that, at least with the first one of these, I know nothing about the second one, is that it was sort of an early DS game. And it had a lot of ideas that felt like, I mean, like a lot of games at the time were sort of like, hey, how do we use the touchscreen in a novel way? Or like, how do we use the microphone? And there were a lot of gameplay elements that sort of focused around that. But I can't remember if people were like, oh, yes, this is, sort of a must-play sort of game and not just sort of a fancy tech demo or justification for all these DS features.
Oh, yeah. I don't know.
I honestly don't remember how it was received, but that sort of like seems kind of likely to me. Yeah. I don't know.
Probably. I mean, I came to Trace Memory by way of Hotel Dusk. I played Hotel Dusk and was enamored with it. And what else did these guys make? And they had made a previous game called Trace Memory, and it felt like Trace Memory was a lot of like proof of concept for things that went on to be in Hotel Dusk and feel slightly more fleshed out and thoughtful. Trace Memory had a lot of kind of really obtuse puzzles and didn't have a great hint system. And I found myself kind of walking in circles sometimes trying to figure out, like, what did I miss? What rock did I not look under? What, door handle did I not jiggle in pursuit of being able to solve some of these puzzles? It was charming, but it wasn't awesome.
Okay, yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds like how I would describe a lot of early DS games.
In a way that, like, Hotel Dusk was charming and awesome. So yeah, it certainly felt like this developer was kind of figuring their thing out. And maybe that thing they were trying to figure out is how to make a game for the DS, right? So, which was, like you said, a pretty unique piece of hardware, and not every game kind of worked in that format. So yeah, I remember liking Trace Memory, but being kind of frustrated by it sometimes, and trying to sort of find clues and walkthroughs on the internet. The less time I can spend on GameFAQs, the better. And that was really the only way to figure out what the hell to do next in Trace Memory sometimes.
Yeah.
So
that sounds about right. I mean, that also sounds like you could be describing Hotel Dusk, where it's like this really cool sort of presentation, and it's got a lot of really good ideas, but it still at times could be very obtuse.
Yes.
And I feel like suffered from some issues just by virtue of it, or people thinking of, or designing it like you would design another video game. Like you could get like a game over screen for weird reasons in Hotel Dusk, which is like, it doesn't feel great. It doesn't quite sort of jive with the rest of this game. Right. But whatever. It's like a video game, so obviously you need to have a game over screen, and So that's sort of my expectation from of the original Trace Memory. It's just it's a lot of weird sort of Resident Evil style puzzles, which are sort of like arbitrary and would not make any sense that they're all existing on this island. But it's a video game, so you're going to do some puzzles.
Yes, yeah. Also, sort of not the least of which is you're a 13-year-old girl left to fend for herself on a deserted island that is obviously very haunted, and where your dad, who you thought was dead, is probably been hiding out for the last number of years and has summoned you here with a mysterious device.
Yes.
So there's a lot of...
she's got an Odin. I was just like, oh, man. She's playing some PS2 games on that thing.
Well, she had a DS once upon a time, but now she's got some other updated thing.
Yeah. That has been one of my favorite things about this. Is it a remake? What are they calling this? It's definitely much more than just a remaster, I think.
I think the first game, I didn't play the Wii game, the sequel. But that, to my knowledge, was like a fully 3D kind of exploration puzzle game. Mm-hmm. Trace Memory was not 3D, was pretty flat, was more or less like a point and click. You could walk around.
It was like a top-down perspective, wasn't it?
Kinda, yeah.
I was trying to find images of it because I had no idea what this even looked like, aside from sort of like the character dialogue scenes, which are, as you would expect, like a talking head. But I just like running into the stuff, like when she pops up on the boat and she's got the little pseudo switch thing. And I was just like, I bet that was a DS in the original one. What else has changed in this one?
It absolutely was, yeah.
Yeah. So that was fun. But I really wish, like, there have been so many points while I've been playing this where I just can't really imagine how this occurred on the DS. Or I can sort of imagine, like, some of the puzzles, I was like, oh, yes, you'd be using the stylus for this, for sure. But then there are a lot of other sections where it just seems like, I sort of wondered, like, did they change this puzzle completely from the DS version, or were you like doing some weird thing with the touchscreen? I sort of wish there was I don't know, like a side feature where, you solve a puzzle and a little, like the little Microsoft paperclip pops up and it's like, here's how this puzzle worked in the DS version. And it just shows this video clip of a completely different game.
Or it's like that new Tomb Raider collection where you just hit a button and it shows you the old graphics and the old gameplay and the old controls. Yeah. And you hit it, you go back to the modern controls and the modern graphics.
Yeah. I don't know how they would make that work, but it would be really fascinating.
No, Another Code feels like another game. It does feel like, particularly for comparing it to the DS game, it is much more, much less of a point and click adventure game and more of an exploration based puzzle game.
Okay.
But one of the first puzzles you encounter, and there's a demo for this on the Switch, if anyone wants to check it out. Your progress from the demo carries over to the main game. I believe you did that, DJ, right?
I did. Yes, yeah. I can confirm that that works.
And one of the first puzzles you get is you're trying to get into this big mansion, and there's two door knockers, and you have to sort of figure out what the right pattern is to knock on both doors kind of simultaneously. And I remembered exactly that from the DS.
Amazing.
Because I'm like, I know exactly what I have to do here. I didn't remember what the solution was, but I knew where to find it, and then I knew how to do it.
Okay, nice.
So that one puzzle, at the very least, was carried more or less part and parcel from the DS game to the Switch game.
Okay, I was hoping you were going to mention the broken bridge, and not to give away this very complicated puzzle, but you have to place a plank over the gap in this bridge so you can get across, and then as you're placing it on in the Switch version using the analog sticks or whatever, I could just I can visualize the exact sort of like dragging this plank around with the stylus on the touchscreen. Like, this is the sort of thing where it's like, okay, this puzzle just carried over 1-to-1.
Yeah, I don't even think of that as a puzzle. That's not really.
Right. I mean, exactly. It was more like, oh, look what you can do with this fancy little console that has a touchscreen. You can drag a piece of wood around.
She's like, how am I going to get across this bridge? And you look immediately to your left, and there's a plank.
Yes, a plank that is the exact shape of the gap in the bridge.
How indeed, precocious tween. How are we going to get across this bridge?
Yeah, it's good.
But I like it. I think it's endearing. I'm remembering what I liked about Trace Memory. It does have better, and I've not had to deploy them a lot yet, so I'm not sure if the puzzles have gotten easier with age, or I've somehow gotten smarter. But or to your point, maybe they've changed them significantly in a way that feels sort of a little less less frustrating. But I do find it is a bit more of a breezier experience to play through in the modern incarnation. I've not really had to use the hint system, but there is one. And a lot of the wandering around I did in the previous game, trying to sort of figure out what did I miss, what did I not pick up or analyze or whatever, is sort of solved by clicking the left stick, and it points a little compass pointer around your waist in the direction of the next thing that you have to touch.
Yeah, that's right.
So if at any point you fail frustrated by not knowing what to do next, there is a pointer if you want one. And that has been helpful and stopped me from just kind of wandering in circles, I think.
It does seem like it is, or my impression of it is, it feels like it is ready to help you out at the moment's notice if you need the assistance. Because like when you start it up, it explains that thing about the pointer, it explains the hint system. Yep. I really appreciate that it's off by default, or it gives you the option to turn it on, but I think it's off by default.
Yep.
But I like that. Like I can imagine playing the original version of this, or just, thinking back on my experience with Hotel Dusk, where so many times in that game we're just like, I don't know who to talk to.
What did I miss?
I'll just wander around this hotel, which is like not an incredibly pleasant experience in that game. And I can sort of imagine, just from what I've seen from of the screenshots of the original Another Code or Trace Memory or whatever, that I feel like I wouldn't enjoy backtracking very much. Whereas in this, it's all full 3D. It's sort of you get the over the shoulder perspective camera.
Yeah.
It's just sort of like pleasant to move around in the space, and like everything looks really amazing. Like they did a great job with the visuals and everything.
It is really nicely presented. Yeah, I think they updated it really nicely. The island design and the puzzle design are really well done. And you do get some really nice views and some really nice kind of set dressing and stuff like that. So it's definitely polished. It's got what do they call it? A glow up. It got a nice glow up over the years.
Man, the characters in this look so good. I mean, you spend a lot of time looking at Ashley, the main character, but you meet a few other people on the island as well. And I'm just like, man, I don't remember the last time I played a game with cell shading like this. Maybe Tears of the Kingdom, like that looked pretty good.
Sure.
But this one it looks so good. Like it's sort of it looks a bit hand illustrated at times, or it looks like you're watching an anime or something. I've been kind of surprised just how good the presentation is.
Yeah.
And it reminded me a bit of that Star Ocean remake from last year, where it's just like, I can't believe they put this much effort into it, or like, I can't believe it turned out this well, because
interesting.
Similarly, that game, I don't think it was at the top of anybody's list for like, oh, this game, we need a remake of this immediately. And then the remake came out and it just looked gorgeous. And obviously they put in a lot of effort into just like bringing that game into the modern era.
Mm-hmm.
And just thinking about playing this version of Another Code for, just 5 or 10 minutes and thinking like, I can't believe this was a DS game and they turned it into this like full 3D sort of exploration game. It's kind of unbelievable.
Yeah. I agree.
I really wish I had played the original, because I would be just losing my mind over like how different it is, or how improved it is, I guess.
I think it's a little hard to find at this point. I think copies of it are pretty rare. I don't even think I have my copy of it anymore. I think I may have played it and then flipped it, which I regret immensely now, probably. But I had a good time with it, but it wasn't one of those things where I sort of like, what they really need to remake is Trace Memory.
That's why I was kind of surprised, because like I was saying, I was thinking like, was this like, did people really enjoy this, or was it just the fact that it was a DS game that was available? Because there weren't even that many DS games close to launch.
I mean, it has its charms. Again, my memory of the first game is the protagonist is kind of funny and precocious, and she's a feisty teen,
yes.
And she's got a lot of like family drama, and it's a game full of like mysteries and double crosses, and there's a supernatural element to it, and I remember like 2 or 3 like twist in the game, and then another twist like later on. And so like if you kind of devote yourself to the narrative and really pay attention to kind of the mystery of it, like some of that stuff kind of pays off. So yeah, I'm hopefully all of that remains intact in the remake. I have not played enough of it to be able to say, despite having put quite a few hours in it already, if there are any significant kind of narrative changes. But yeah, it does feel like there's a lot of like little surprises and double crosses and mysteries that you're trying to suss out, in addition to some of these, just geographic puzzles.
Yeah. I remember Hotel Dusk ended up having a pretty intricate sort of storyline involving all the weird characters you run into in that.
Yeah.
Which was like mostly plausible. I think there were a few instances where I was like, oh, this seems like a coincidence. But for the most part, I think it all came together pretty well. So in this one, I appreciate that that sometimes it feels a little bit like a game from that era where it's a little less sophisticated in terms of like storytelling or characterization, but it just reminds me of a PS2 game, and I like that. So it's I'm having a lot of fun.
Sure, that's a good thing, right?
Yeah, I really liked at the very start. You're just immediately on the island, and there's like a rock slide or something behind you, and your character, without any sort of setup or background information, you're just like, oh, rock slide. Guess I can't go that way anymore. Just like, okay, yeah, this feels like I was just dumped into a game that came out in like 1995.
Yes.
No elaborate backstory. No, 3 hours of Yakuza cutscenes to set this up. It was kind of refreshing in some way.
I was reminded of something very similar by sort of seeing how many like invisible walls are in the game. Where you're like, you can't like fall off the side of the mountain or walk across water, or at one point she encounters like a gate that's like 3 feet tall, and then you have to spend 15 minutes looking around for a key. And I'm like, well, you could just climb over the gate if this was real. Where's my jump button? But no, it's not that game, and it's certainly not from that era. Yeah, but still, I'm having a good time with it.
Yeah, I appreciate finally having a chance to check it out. I don't expect that it will like blow me away or anything. Because I'm just sort of expecting that sort of first year DS experience. But I do really I'm surprised at how much of effort they put into cleaning it up and making it a little more palatable to people coming to it for the first time.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting to the sequel as well, which I've never played. And was a Wii game, and I don't have a Wii hooked up right now, and let alone a copy of the sequel to Trace Memory to play. So it'll be cool.
That's going to be like a whole other thing. It's like, how many stupid motion control puzzles are going to be in that game?
That will be interesting to sort of see as well. Yeah. So I'll have to chime in when I get there. Hopefully you hang in there too and play both of them.
Yeah. I mean, this first one would have to turn out to be a complete disaster for me to not eventually play the second one, since it's already on the same collection. So
right. You paid for it. You own it. So you might as well play it.
Yeah.
I hold out hope too that Hotel Dusk gets this treatment at some point in the future. That if enough copies of this sell and there is enough interest, then whoever remade this thing, because Sing doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately, but someone clearly owns the rights to this stuff. Maybe Hotel Dusk would get to live to see another day. Although I think a lot of the charm of Hotel Dusk was in the DS presentation, because it was. For listeners who maybe don't know what Hotel Dusk is, you held the DS sideways like a book. And on the left-hand screen, which was not a touchscreen, you had like all your animation and character interactions. And on the right-hand side, you could take notes and write things down and solve puzzles with that stylus. And it was just kind of really unique. All the graphics were like pencil line drawings and things like that. So it was really kind of leaned into the format of the DS, and you kind of held it and interacted with it in a really unique way. I don't think you used the face buttons, if I remember correctly.
I think all the navigation, you could use them to walk around, but you could also use the stylus as well.
Right.
I think all that stuff. It was definitely a very interesting hook to like get people's attention. Like, hey, look, there's a game you hold like a book.
Yeah.
I think ultimately it's probably not essential to it, but. That said, I'm so curious, just after having played a little bit of this, to see how they would approach a Hotel Dusk remaster in this way.
Yeah. I think that the level of difficulty in updating Hotel Dusk for the Switch would be slightly more difficult than...
I don't know about that.
No?
Yeah, I think they would. I think they would be fine. I think it would be very similar to this, actually.
They just turn it into a first-person shooter.
Well, I mean, I imagine you would walk around the hotel similarly to how you do in another code, how you just walk around the island in third person.
I'm being a smartass. Well, cool. Yeah, it's just a random surprise of a thing. Like by rights, I don't think anybody had this on their 2024 bingo card. So when this got announced late last year, I think we were all a little impressed that someone at Nintendo had pulled it off the dust heap.
It was very surprising. I still kind of can't believe it. I'm just like, is this gonna like sell well? I hate when it just comes back to like, oh, how many copies are people gonna buy? Yeah. But it does seem like kind of a huge gamble on Nintendo's part. But to their credit, so far they've done an amazing job just cleaning it up. So I hope a lot of people will check it out.
Yeah, there's got to be this like rogue executive somewhere at Nintendo that is like greenlighting the remake of Live Alive and another code and just all of maybe those are the two examples I can think of, but just somebody who's like the chief technician of random old games we should resurrect. Yeah. Whoever turned, what was that game that got turned into the Racing 99 game?
F-Zero.
F-Zero. Yeah. Whoever turned F-Zero 99. Whoever turned F-Zero into a 99 game for the Nintendo Switch online service is probably the same person responsible for Live Alive and another code.
Oh, I don't know. I feel like the F-Zero person was a very different person.
Oh, yeah.
Because F-Zero 99 feels like such a troll for all the F-Zero fans who have been holding out for them to make a new one of those.
All right.
They're just like, oh, you want a new F-Zero game? Let's see how you deal with this. This is what you wanted, right?
Be careful what you wish for. Cool. Anything else about your experience with another code you'd like to discuss?
No, I just like want to spend some more time with it. Want to see what other sorts of weird puzzles come my way. It's funny because I keep telling myself like this didn't reinvent the adventure like puzzle genre or anything. So I should get my hopes up too much for these puzzles. And yeah, so far up to this point, it has been just sort of the standard, like, Resident Evil style. Let's put some stuff on pedestals, or let's push some statues around kind of this deal. But like, that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not expecting it to be the messenger or the passenger. What was that? What was the Jonathan Blow game?
The Witness. Yeah. It's like, Witness, it's no Cocoon.
Yeah. Right.
But it's still fun to just be on a haunted island every once in a while.
Yeah. Its charms lie elsewhere.
Yeah. Anyway, speaking of haunted islands, played some more Infinite Wealth.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that has been my other like part-time job for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah. I don't know how much I have to say about it. It's just continues to be a bottomless experience. There's just so much to do. I can't even remember, like, did I make any progress on the story? Or did I just spend all my game time running around the mall and beating people up? Like, I just recently unlocked the job system, which I kind of forgot was a thing in the original, because it's so long before you even unlock it in this one. I had just kind of settled into using all my characters' default jobs, and then I just remembered at some point, there was like a whole like Dragon Quest Final Fantasy job system in the first one. When is that going to show up?
Yeah.
And then it finally did.
Really the only way you can change kind of the, unless you have sort of DLC and stuff like that, if you want to change the outfits that your characters are wearing, you have to change their job. Unless I'm missing some other way to do it. So I keep seeing like commercials or screenshots on social media of Kasuga dressed some other way. And I'm like, how do you get that? But you have to play far enough in to get to be able to change his job. And you have the added pressure of, as you change jobs, you have to select which of the character's skills you want to carry over to the new job. And I'm like, oh, that's like, I'm just frozen trying to think of which ones I want to carry and don't want to make a bad choice.
It's a lot to take in all at once when they unlock the system for you.
Yeah.
But so yeah, now it's just another thing I'm putting time into, and it's like I gotta level up these jobs. Gotta get all new weapons because the jobs can't use the old weapons, so it's gonna cost some money.
I can say that on the most recent episode, when I was pretty complainy about how verbose the game was, it does let off the gas a little bit with some of that stuff as you kind of get further in. I think, if you can get over the hump of the first kind of 8 hours of it really holding your hand and being very explainy.
Just the first 8 hours.
I kick myself for even sort of saying that out loud. Like as soon as it kind of gives you free reign of Hawaii, you definitely are off the leash and can kind of run around and have fun and explore and get up to some hijinks. So you do still get your occasional like long conversational cutscenes, but it is much less frequent than it was in the earlier hours of the game.
Yeah. I feel like once you get the full party together, it opens up and there's fewer of those long cutscenes.
I'd agree with that, absolutely. Once you have, 4 players on your team, it definitely feels like, oh, now we're playing an RPG.
Yeah, now we're doing it. Although it's still hilarious to me how frequently it just introduces stuff to you that turned out to be just like another 40-hour side activity you can do. We're just like, it's so funny how it does this because it'll just like sort of shoehorn it into the main storyline and as an excuse to get you to try out this thing, and it only makes you do a little bit of it. But after that part of the story wraps up, they're just like, oh, by the way, if you want to just keep doing this instead of playing the campaign, be my guest, because there's another 100 hours of stuff in this little side mode for you to do.
Right.
So that's a little ridiculous.
And that adds like 100 new icons to your map too. So just, it starts to feel like an Assassin's Creed game eventually.
Yeah. A little bit. I mean, not quite. It's not that dense with just random stuff going on.
Yeah, the Sujimon thing, have you explored that at all?
No, don't talk to me about Sujimon. I hate it. Okay. That is, okay. No, you're right. That is everywhere. It's like every 5 minutes they're like, here's a Sujimon thing. Do you want to do a Sujimon raid? I'm like, no. And I just keep thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, so sorry, backing up a little bit. Sujimon, if you didn't play the first one, it's basically, they put a whole Pokemon mini game into this. So you can recruit all the different enemies you end up fighting against and have them on your Sujimon team and fight in Sujimon tournaments. Mm-hmm. And I didn't really do that in the first one. I'm not doing it in this one, and I'm doing my best to avoid just accidentally activating little raid prompts because I just don't want to deal with it. And I'm just playing this in fear of getting to chapter 16 or further into the game and encountering a section where it's okay, here's the part where you need to pull out your elite Sujimon team to battle the this other story critical NPC Sujimon team, because it's the only way you can progress past this point.
By the way, you have been leveling up all of your Sujimon all along, right?
Yeah, yes, exactly. So at that point, I will just start playing Persona 4 or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not trying to do it either. Although every now and then, after you finish beating up a group of dudes, one guy will kind of hang back, and it creates a little mini game where you can kind of woo him onto your Sujimon team. And I'm like, okay, well, that's a little fun.
So first of all, I avoid those.
Yeah.
Unless it's an especially rare looking guy, and then I do the mini game, and then sometimes they don't even join you, which I understand is a thing. When you're catching Pokemon, you need to have the best Pokeball or the equivalent in this. But for some reason, it's just so infuriating to me where it's okay, fine. I will engage with the Sujimon thing just this one time, and then they just run away still.
Yep. Nah, I'm good.
Come on.
So yeah, it's annoying, and I don't want to do it.
That's another thing where I'm just they had to have spent so much time on all these little side things, some of which I am intentionally deciding to ignore. I just kind of feel bad for the Sega staffers who worked on these things.
Yeah, the Sujimon team that was chained to their desk.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm trying to ship this thing.
Hopefully some people are really into it. Hopefully some people are just like, oh yeah, I've got the best Sujimon team in Hawaii, so
yeah.
So come fight me or whatever.
And this is all I do now. I don't even care about the rest of the game.
Right. Speaking of that, I just unlocked the Animal Crossing island, which is just, I don't even know. I've heard people just stop playing the rest of the game at this point and only do the island.
Oof.
I can't talk about it yet because I haven't done any of it because I had to go to bed.
Yeah.
But maybe next week.
I have heard that the Animal Crossing kind of island in the game is the place where you can, 1, get the most XP and 2, get the most money.
That was sort of what I was expecting because I was just like, where is the business development minigame in this?
Yes.
Is it the island? It's probably going to be the island.
No. I was promised infinite wealth. Where is it?
Yeah, I not yet encountered the infinite wealth. Largely the opposite up to this point.
Quite finite, in fact, yes.
But anyway, I'm just like, I'm very curious about the island, but I'm also terrified of it at the same time.
I'm with you. Yeah, I'm not there
yet. It's
got
to be better than Sujimon, though. It has to be more interesting than that.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I'm going to play it for 100 hours. It better be good. Yeah. My other sort of like frustrating thing with Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth is the little Segway scooter you have.
Oh, you don't like that?
I love it, but I don't want to pay $100 to recharge it every time. That seems like a ripoff.
Oh, I haven't had to recharge it yet. I mean, I haven't been using it that often.
It gives you, pretty early in the game, access to a Segway that you can sort of manifest from the thin air, and you step on it. And the funny thing is that everybody in your party also like manifests their own little Segway and all step on it, and you cruise down the street, and it gets you around Hawaii pretty zippy. And it's for a game that was you would otherwise have to play on foot, just running around. Or taking taxis everywhere, which are pretty cheap. But
we're doing a lot of taxis, yeah.
Yeah, you miss out on some stuff.
What do you miss out on?
Well, anything that you would like encounter, like down a dark alley or shortcuts or pickups and things like that. But yeah, once the battery on the Segway dies, you have to go to a station to charge it, and you got to pay $100 for it. And I'm like, okay. It's still not seeing the infinite wealth here. I'm like, I need that $100 because I'm still beating dudes up with a rusty pipe and a 2x4.
Oh man.
Yeah. I just need, I need a little more money, please. And, charging the Segway feels like a luxury in a game where I don't really have money for that.
I must be like just far enough that, $100 doesn't seem like an issue anymore. Because I remember being at that point where I couldn't even buy like health restorative items because it's like, you want how much for this like thing of shave ice? Like no,
$10 for a hot dog. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But at this point I'm just like, $100 to recharge the Segway, that's not too bad.
Oh. You're so posh, DJ.
Yeah, I know. I am still sort of freaked out whenever I wander into one of those like luxury brand stores and they're selling all the equipment that costs like hundreds of thousands of dollars. Oh, yeah. So I'm just like, oh yes, this is my future 10 to 20 hours from now. Or I'm just like, I need another gold nugget or whatever so I can upgrade my $100,000 pipe wrench or whatever.
Yeah. I need to find a platinum plate in the trash that I can sell.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, cool. I'm glad we are equally matched in our sort of ridiculous experience with Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth.
Yeah. It seems like we're playing it at roughly the same pace, which is interesting.
Yeah, I think so too.
We'll see how it works out when we're both on the island. See if we ever go back to Hawaii at all.
Cool. Well, I think that does it for this week. We should wrap this thing up. Friendly reminder that we will be streaming Splatoon 3 Side Order this coming Monday night, February 26th at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Tune in at twitch.tv/VGHangover to watch us play some games.
Yeah.
Play one game.
It'll be fun. Looking forward. Yeah, just only one game. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's only like 20 minutes long. We'll just switch over to Vampire Survivors afterward.
I'm used to hyping Extra Life, where I'm like, watch us play 100 games in 24 hours.
Yeah. Well, this will be very novel then. Just one game.
In the meantime, if you need any more video game hangover in your brain, you should follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/VGHangover. And don't forget, you can always get show notes and links and tell us what you thought about our episode here at VGHangover.com. We would love for you to hang out with us on Discord. You can chat about video games and other fun stuff. You can get a link to that at VGHangover.com. And subscribe, rate, and review us on your podcasting app of choice, please. And maybe help us out by telling your friends about the show as well.
Yeah, really appreciate that. One of the best ways for people to find out about the show, just tell your friends about us. That would be great. What would also be great is... Oh, I'm doing the second part first. We want to give thanks again to Fear of Dark for our intro and outro music. Here's what would be great if you went to fearofdark.bandcamp.com, where you can hear the rest of his discography, maybe buy some of it.
Nice.
That would be fun.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, should do it.
All right, we'll be back. Hey, next week. We'll be back next week. You can, we'll see you then, hopefully. Until then, this is Randy Dickinson.
This is DJ Ross.
Thanks so much for listening to Video Game Hangover. Good night.
Good night. Goodbye. Farewell.
See ya.
Oh, he's got the memento disease.